Excellent. Thank you, Will. Okay, our agenda, we got a lot to try and get through in the time we have, so we'll move quickly. First, we do want to talk about RISE, talk about what RISE is, give you an overview of the services that are encompassed within RISE, as well as the software licenses. We'll finish that off with talking about who is RISE right for. And then a very quick primer on Greenfield versus Brownfield, just so that we make sure we have everybody talking from a common definition. And then I want to address some past limitations that are being addressed with RISE and S4HANA Private Cloud Edition. From there, Gabe will take us through Brownfield upgrades to S4HANA Cloud PCE and talk about a lot more detail about the approach, the process, the roles of SAP versus either yourselves or an integrator, and then how you build continuous innovation into your business once you've done the upgrade. And last but not least, hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A. And again, please go ahead and feel free to type those questions in as we go. So from there, let's talk about an overview. So there are, again, 5 major components to RISE, all right? We've got the tools that come with RISE to really help you move into RISE. These are 2 of the 3, at least, are more tailored towards clients who are running ECC today, which sounds like it's a majority of you. So the Readiness Check you may be aware of, and what you may or may not be aware of is the custom code migration app. So I'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about a little bit about Learning Hub licenses that come with RISE. The business technology platform, we'll talk about, just touch on what that is, and then talk about the cross-platform credits that you get with RISE. We'll talk about the starter package that comes with RISE, which is has 3 components that give you access to these collaboration networks around around your digital suppliers, your physical assets or machinery, and then your business logistics, transportation networks. I'll touch on business process intelligence services that come with RISE, and then we'll move into talking about the RISE licenses. So those are the 5 major components. As we move into it, again, starting with the tools, the Readiness Check you may be very well familiar with, and if you're not, what it does is it's going to evaluate your ECC environment and provide you technical guidance on moving to S4HANA. It'll help with identifying sizing requirements, software prerequisites. It does take a look at business processes and capabilities that could be impacted by going to S4HANA. It does take a look at the volume, your data volumes. It'll help get a start at looking at your custom code and what that impact may be. And last but not least, it's going to allow you to look at what Fiori apps may be best suited for you to adopt as you move to S4HANA. As you know, if you move to the private cloud, or may not know, as you move to the private cloud edition, you can still use your old T codes. You don't have to take all of the business transformation that comes with S4HANA. We'll talk about that later. I mentioned the custom code migration app that's used to really help reduce the custom code that you're bringing over. We want to get rid of any code that's not being used, and the migration app is going to help identify all that unused code to make sure we don't bring that across, and it'll help eliminate that waste during the conversion. You're also going to want to go through processes to make sure that any of that functionality isn't being replaced with new functionality in S4HANA. Last but not least in these tools is Learning Hub. And what you're getting with RISE is you're getting 5 seats of Learning Hub, which you can use for building custom learning journeys for either business users or your IT support staff. So it's a nice value add there to create this ability to have ongoing training as you go to again, could be your business users, could be your IT staff as well. So that's the first section that we're talking about that comes with RISE. Next is the business technology platform, right? This used to be the SAP Cloud Platform. It's been rebranded as the SAP Business Technology Platform, or BTP. So as you know, this is a huge platform as a service, which gives you everything from data services to analytics and analytics services, integration capabilities, as well as the ability to develop customizations using intelligent technologies, building Internet of Things or robotic process automation, just an entire platform for you to build and tailor your solution for. What comes with RISE is a credit. So that credit allows you to use any one of these tools within the BTP. So you've got that ultimate flexibility there. The way that credit is determined is if you are using RISE with public cloud, you'll have a minimum of 2,000 credits. If you're using RISE private cloud, you'll have a minimum of 4,000 credits. That then can go up to as high as 16,000 on either platform. And it's computed based on the percent of your license value for either public or private cloud. And again, the idea is to give you a start, an entree into the business technology platform. Maybe you want to build a few RPA bots to see how RPA could really help your automate some of your processes. Or maybe you've got a few integrations that you've been using point to point, and you want to start using the BTP middleware to get better control over your integrations, that sort of thing. This is a great start into that. You can add to this, of course, and add to that your credits if you want to do that. But again, with RISE, it's at least giving you an entree into this business technology platform. Next is the Network Starter Pack. And what this pack is, if you kind of look at this graphic, in the middle is your company, right? And your company, you're running S4HANA. Outside of that is everyone else you integrate with, your suppliers, the people who maintain your equipment, your logistics services, distributors, that sort of thing. What the Network Starter Pack is again, an appetizer, a top of taste, just a tiny little bit of these services which allow you to automate your business outside the 4 walls of your company. I said 4 walls, of course, and then I'm using a circle for the company, but hopefully you get my gist there. So let's talk about those one at a time. The first is the Ariba network. What this does is gives you electronic integration with your vendors. It's fully integrated with S4HANA. So the way it would work is you're going to create a purchase order in S4HANA. There'll be an automated email which will go out to your selected vendors, and they'll receive that email. They'll subscribe to the Ariba network. They'll have use of its tools and its mobility and everything else. It doesn't cost them anything. So it could help them automate their processes as well, or they'll just get the email and process the purchase order. But they can then reply back to that through the Ariba network, sending you a confirmation or a shipping confirmation, and ultimately sending you back an invoice. That invoice, the shipping confirmation, whatever, all that will be automatically, even though it'll come through in email, it will automatically be entered into S4HANA. So you've got a very smooth integration there, if you will. and you've automated that interaction with your vendors. Obviously, this will help improve your purchasing accuracy, your cycle times, and purchasing is one of those areas within ERP that does drive immediate value to the bottom line, helping you take advantage of discounts and so forth. This is, like I said, an entree. You get 2,000 documents a year with the Ariba network, meaning 2,000 purchase orders or 2,000, up to 2,000 invoices or combination therein. Many of the documents, things like confirmations, are included within the other documents. So it really only looks, I think, at the major documents in terms of coming up with what that limit is. And as I said, you can obviously add more documents. You can add more Ariba components if you want to go further into automating your procurement experience. So that's the Ariba network that comes with RISE. The Asset Intelligence Network, again, similar concept. You've got large equipment. This really isn't going to apply to everybody. It's going to apply to manufacturers or maybe energy companies who've got large equipment where you've got manufacturers or service providers and such, where you want to share things like specifications, work instructions, drawings, safety materials, product updates that happen, from time to time, and you'll have full access to integrating with those partners so that you minimize paperwork going back and forth or emails going back and forth. The idea here again is a limited introduction to it. You can have 200 devices that you put onto the network with a limited number of connections, and then a limit of 10 partners that you can actually share information with. So again, it's just a small taste of what the Asset Intelligence Network can do for you. But the idea is maybe you've got some equipment that you want to try this out with. You see if it works for you, and then you can add more to it from there. So the next piece to address is the Logistics Business Network. And what I've got, if you look at the graphic on the bottom, you'll see this is actually only one of three major legs of the SAP Transportation Management. But the Logistics Business Network is going to cover order collaboration with suppliers. It's going to cover visibility of your supply chain outside your four walls, where are things in transit, and it's going to even cover dock appointment scheduling. So you can get very sophisticated in working with your logistics providers. What comes with RISE is only this order collaboration piece in that top left quadrant. All right, so what you're going to get with that, again, very similar to the Ariba integration, is out-of-the-box integration with S4HANA. It's automated and streamlined load pricing and contracting. So it's that front piece of integration with your logistics providers. You get access to the full carrier network. New carriers can be added if your carriers aren't on there. And again, you've got that limitation based on the number of documents and the number of service providers you want to connect with. And yet, again, you can add more. The idea, let me give it a try, see how this works, and does it really improve my business processes? SAP is obviously, they believe in their product and they're betting that it will. So moving from that to the business process intelligence piece, for those of you on ECC who know this is going to be very similar to the business scenario recommendation report. And SAP is starting there, but they're creating a RISE only version, and then they'll continue to update this. So this is how things stand today. This could change in the very near future, but the idea is, go in, look at your ECC environment, and identify, looking at the data there, key metrics about your business. And then based on those metrics and looking at the improvements that come with S4HANA, tailor recommendations for you on where you might want to implement business transformation with S4HANA as opposed to just doing an upgrade. And that will help you scope your upgrade ultimately. Last but not least, as I said, I get to the license. The license, the S4HANA licensing that comes with RISE is the same licensing that you could get outside of RISE. Okay, what you'll need to work with your SAP rep or your reseller, whoever, to understand maybe what the difference is, if there is a difference, if there's not a difference in price, getting those BTP credits, getting the access to some of those extended networks, the Learning Hub licensing. Those are some very nice value adds that if you're not paying any more for it, are really going to suggest moving to RISE. And again, from a ERP perspective, it's either going to be S4HANA Cloud, which is for SAP's confusing things a little bit again with some rebranding. You might have known S4HANA Cloud as Essentials Edition last year. Prior to that, it was multi-tenant, I think. Prior to that, I think it was public cloud. Prior to that, it was just cloud, right? So, but this is the pre-configured version specific to a few industries. Those industries are going to grow over time as SAP continues to add functionality. But the idea is this is for companies who want standardized back-end processes on SAP best practices. They don't have a lot of IMG customization needs, configuration needs, and they don't have any customizations to the code. Also, you will be taking continual innovations with regular upgrades every quarter. What's new is the S4HANA Cloud Private Cloud Edition, PCE. This is similar to the extended edition that was out previously, but I think a lot better for a lot of different reasons. Similar in that it is the full scope of S4HANA. You configure at the IMG level, so you've got the full scale of S4HANA available to you, supports broader industry solutions, extensive complex operations. And what's new with PCE is you can customize the code where need be, or for those of you on ECC today, you can bring those customizations with you. So that's probably the biggest change. You do have your choice of your hyperscaler for hosting, whether that be Google or Azure or Amazon. That was similar with EX as well. But what's also different now from EX is while you're entitled to one upgrade a year, if you want to, which is, I would argue a best practice to stay current, you do not have to take any upgrade for up to 5 years. There is a minimum that you have to upgrade every 5 years. So those are the licenses that come with RISE as well. So hopefully I've answered that question at this point. And if not, just let us know. Who is RISE right for? It's right for anyone who wants to move to cloud ERP and to a subscription-based licensing model. I am not a financial expert, and I did not sleep at a Holiday Inn last night. So what I will say is I do believe there are ways to capitalize SaaS-based licensing models. That would be something you'd want to take up with your accounting department if you've got concerns there on cloud versus on-premise. But with Cloud ERP, it will be subscription-based licensing, so you're going to want to be desiring to move to that. Also, if you've got this desire to optimize your processes outside the company's four walls. Again, we talked about procurement probably being one of the strongest business cases, more ubiquitous across any type of company, but the asset intelligence and logistics network may also provide value there. If you're interested in customizing your experience, adding RPA or other intelligent processes, building unique data solutions, or again, integrating with third-party solutions via middleware, that sort of thing, again, there's going to be that extra value there that you're going to want to take advantage of with RISE. And last but not least, RISE is going to really help build in a continuous improvement culture. So with that, that's kind of the what is RISE or what's included with RISE. Very quickly, just to make sure everyone is set, Greenfield is a fresh start, new implementation. You can come from ECC to S4HANA in a Greenfield implementation. We have several clients that do it. The big key here is it's a data conversion. So you're not going to want to bring closed transactions. You're going to want to limit the history that you bring. You will have high process change. You will be adopting the new processes that come with S4HANA. Generally speaking, it's going to have a higher project duration and a higher project cost. Again, that could be limited and minimized if you move to cloud or just S4HANA Cloud, the public cloud, because it's pre-configured. But again, that doesn't fit everyone who's running ECC today. Brownfield, you're upgrading from existing ECC instance. It's a database migration. It's not a data migration. So you're bringing everything over and you're getting to keep all your history as well. You can keep all of your existing processes, or you can put in limited transformational change should you want. An upgrade, generally you'll have a lower or shorter project duration, a lower project cost, and somewhat lower risk. In terms of limitations, I talked about these in the past. It is not possible yesterday or today to do a brownfield upgrade to S4HANA Cloud. It is not possible to customize S4HANA Cloud. And prior to S4HANA Cloud PCE, the only way you could do an upgrade was to on-premise. And if you wanted to be in the cloud, you could go to on-premise hosted. You could not upgrade to a cloud SaaS offering. Now today, with Cloud PCE, you can upgrade from ECC to the cloud. And again, you don't need RISE to do that. RISE gives you these additional services, but RISE with PCE, you can do that upgrade. And again, PCE allows customization. So whether you need to make new ones, or if you need to upgrade and bring your old ones with you, you can. So with that, I'm going to close out my section, turn it over to Gabe, who's going to talk about the process to actually perform an upgrade from ECC.
Thank you, MJ. So as MJ said, now we're going to talk about the upgrade to S4HANA Private Cloud Edition. So SAP came out with the Software Update Manager. The Software Update Manager, or SUM, is what all customers use to update their SAP systems. They then came out with the SUM DMO, or database migration option, as part of Software Update Manager. This allowed you to migrate to a different database, namely HANA, as part of a one-step upgrade. So if you're coming from something like Oracle, DB2, Microsoft SQL, you can do a one-step upgrade and database migration with one upgrade and one downtime. So then SAP came out with the SUM DMO with system move option. This allows you to move your system to a different data center, migrate to the cloud, infrastructure as a service providers, other hyperscalers. So this came out in, I think, roughly 2017. And so it's not a new tool, and it's not, it's gone through multiple iterations and support packages with the SUM tool as it's been updated over time. So this is still the standard SAP tool that you're going to do when migrating to the private cloud edition. And so this, as I said, gives you that one step, one downtime ability to upgrade and migrate to a different data center as part of your upgrade project. Next slide, please. So the DMO with system move has two different options. The first we'll talk about here is the serial mode. So the serial mode for the database migration option is a transfer mode in which only one data transfer happens. You'll run the complete sum procedure in your source landscape, and this also includes entering downtime and then exporting the database out. And until that is completed, you then copy the sum folder from the source to the target. Once the sum folder is all the way migrated to the target, you then continue the procedure, and in this, the shadow operations actually run in downtime. So this is going to significantly extend your downtime. There's minimal use cases for using the serial mode, and one that I can think of is say you have a really low bandwidth for your WAN traffic, and so you might need to export the system out to a hard drive and ship it to your provider, and they would then import it on their side. This gives you that flexibility to be able to do a complete export and then send the data over to the target where it can then be imported. Next slide, please. Next is the parallel mode. Parallel mode is the recommended approach for from SAP. So this transfer mode is based on a continuous data transfer to the target. So you'll run the procedure in your source system until you get to a specific dialog in the software update manager. And this is all still in uptime. So from a production standpoint, you're still able to do all your operations in your ECC system and operate as usual. So once you define the parallel mode and you then start a synchronization of your sum folder, this goes from the source to the target. You could either do this manually, or SAP has an rsync delivered script that comes as part of the sum tool. So once that initial synchronization of the sum tool from the source to the target has completed, you can then start the sum tool on the target. So in the PCE scenario, SAP will actually start this for the partner in coordination with the partner, because as MJ alluded to, they're now the hosting provider and they own the OS level activities there. So they'll start this sum tool, and then the partner will then take over and execute the sum application. This is all while still in uptime. So on the target, the sum tool will execute all the shadow operations. Now, if you remember from the serial mode, those shadow operations happen in downtime, but in this parallel mode, it happens all in uptime. So you will then, once the shadow operations are complete, it's then kind of sitting there waiting to import the dump files that are going to be exported from the source system. So you're then going to enter downtime on the source system, and it'll actually start creating those export files. And these are then synced over from the source to the target and imported into the target system. So this is all done in parallel into the target system, and then the upgrade finishes. Now, because you already completed the shadow operations and we're importing the dump files at the same time as we're exporting them, there's a little lag at the end for the final files to be synced over. They're then imported, and then the upgrade will then finish. This greatly reduces the downtime significantly over this serial mode, which is why it's the recommended approach by SAP when you're using the sum DMO with system move option. Next slide, please. So some of the requirements for using the DMO system move option. As with any upgrade to S4HANA or even a migration to HANA, you need to be Unicode in your ECC system today. So if you're non-Unicode, you'll need to do a Unicode conversion prior to your move to S4HANA. A single stack is required for ABAP. And so if you have a dual stack system today, you'll need to split that Java system off of the dual stack to make the ECC system a single stack system. So also for anybody that maybe is running on Suite on HANA or S4HANA Finance, HANA as a source is not supported for DMO with system move. This will require a two-step upgrade. Also, from a DMO with system move perspective, people may have heard of some downtime optimized scenarios for some DMO. The downtime optimized S4HANA conversion and the downtime optimized DMO are not supported with the system move option. So if you were doing a standard some DMO scenario, these options would be available to help reduce your downtime. But from a system move option, we don't have those available. Next slide, please. So touching on the customers that are already running on the HANA database platform. So because this is using the DMO database migration option and you're already on HANA, SAP doesn't allow you to migrate from HANA to HANA. So we have this limitation where we can't use some DMO. And so we will actually migrate your system from your on-premise or hosted environment and do a lift and shift. We don't need to upgrade anything. We simply can do HANA system replication to move the system over, or a backup and restore using a HANA backup. Restore the system over to your S4HANA Cloud PCE environment, and then actually do the system conversion using the software update manager. So 2 steps, 2 downtimes, but it still gets you to the end of being on the S4HANA Cloud Private Cloud Edition. Next slide, please. So from a conversion perspective, the minimum release is going to be ECC 6. Any enhancement pack, but you want to make sure that, and you know, if you're on an older enhancement pack, you want to make sure you're at a supported support package stack level. So you want to verify this all ahead of time, but you can do a 1-step conversion and database migration over to S4HANA 2020. 2020 is the minimum release when you're coming from ECC 6 that you can go to, and running on the HANA database, and SAP is going to run that system at the OS level, running on SUSE Linux. Next slide, please. Next, for customers that are already on S4HANA, as long as you're on 1709 and higher, 1709, 1809, 1909, or 2020, you can do a system copy like for like and not upgrade your system over to the private cloud edition of SAP S4HANA. Next slide, please. So some of the technical qualifications that are going to come into play, as we said, from an S4HANA perspective, as long as you're on 1709 or higher, you can system copy directly over. When we look at 1511, which mainstream maintenance ended at the end of 2020, those systems, SAP requires you to upgrade to the latest release in the source landscape before migrating over to PCE. For 1610 customers, that support is ending mainstream maintenance at the end of this year, 2021. SAP is going to require you to upgrade to the latest release as part of the migration. So that means you can migrate over to PCE, then do your upgrade to S4HANA 2020. And as we said, all ECC 6 releases, any enhancement pack require a system conversion to S4HANA 2020. And as with the 1709, 1809, and 1909 versions, SAP is going to recommend that as part of that, you upgrade to the latest release, but you are supported on the platform that you're on, so you could just do a system copy over. Next slide, please. So from an upgrade and migration project for customers that are moving to S4HANA Private Cloud Edition, you're obviously working with a partner that's going to be helping you move, and you're going to be working with SAP, who is now going to be hosting your system in the Private Cloud Edition. So partners are going to initiate the upgrade as they would in any scenario in your system, in your current landscape. And there's going to be constant coordination between that partner and SAP throughout this process. Now, SAP, as they own the OS level over on the hyperscaler that you're going to be using for PCE, they're going to execute any of the OS level active commands and stuff that are part of the software update manager and any other activities that are part of the migration. So, and they're going to intervene anytime you have any errors that need to be addressed as part of the upgrade in that target system. So once they execute those OS level commands, Then the partner is going to resume the upgrade within the software update manager tool, continue the upgrade, complete all the post-processing, and then kind of hand the system over to the SAP Cloud team to host and manage that system. So a lot of coordination between the partner and SAP throughout this process, as well as with the customer. So next, we'll talk about continuous innovation. Next slide. So you're now on a platform where you can now innovate. And as MJ alluded to, you get these CPA credits as part of the RISE offering and moving to the private cloud edition. For this discussion, we've talked about private cloud and moving to it, where you'll have a minimum of 4,000 annual credit points and a maximum that's capped at 16,000. And this is all computed as 1% of your annual net private cloud value. So how that translates and how you interpret it, we have a table here at the bottom where we have 50 FUEs that have been calculated that come, and this is a functional user equivalent and how it's sold to the customers. And you can see here, this scenario, this comes out to an annual fee of $116,100. That translates to $1,116 annually that would be used as a credit, which is 1% of that annual net private cloud value. So this just shows kind of how that's calculated. Next, we'll talk about how you can use those CPA credits. So SAP has this site called the Discovery Center. Now within the Discovery Center, you can then filter by CPEA. That way it's going to show you all the applicable solutions, and then you can select any of the desired solutions that you want. So if you're looking at conversational AI or big data services or SAP Analytics Cloud, we can select all these and we can add each of these solutions to the estimator. Next slide, please. So the estimator tool is going to have all the products that you've selected and any of the quantities, and you can then adjust them within this tool, and it's going to tell you what your cost is going to be. It's also going to calculate any discounts that you might have from SAP and give you this estimate. So you could say, based on my spend, I have 15,000 some odd credits, and this is going to cost 19,000 a year, and so you would be responsible for that delta. So this is just a way where you can kind of calculate how you can use those credits and how best to optimize that spend. Next slide, please. So from an automation and innovation perspective, where we see customers innovating the most from data intelligence with machine learning, the capabilities that have come in S4HANA using the business technology platform. This is a scenario we see a lot of, where you get out of the box automation within a number of areas within S4HANA. Next, intelligent RPA from a RPA perspective. Some people have third-party RPA products, but SAP's intelligent RPA platform has a large amount of standard out-of-the-box RPA scripts that work out of the box with standard SAP functionality. So there's a lot of value there where you won't have to create a lot of the scripts yourself. There's a lot of attended and unattended SAP standard RPA bots that you can leverage. Next, from a chatbot conversational AI perspective, if anybody's heard of Copilot on the public cloud edition, Copilot, the evolution of that product is SAP conversational AI, and this is where you can implement that Copilot functionality in your S4HANA PCE environment, leveraging SAP's conversational AI product. Next slide, please. So the conversational AI and chatbot platform and the business technology platform you can see here is all connected to all of your backend systems that exist in the PCE environment. So you have your backend systems, they're connected by various connectors like the SAP Cloud Connector, web services connectors, hitting these different APIs in the backend systems, all coming into that business technology platform and interfacing with the conversational AI product. And then you have bot connectors connected to your different platforms. So we can interface this directly with S4HANA and have chatbots in your Fiori Launchpad that'll help your end users answer important questions. Next slide, please. Next, we can't talk about moving to S4HANA without talking about Fiori. So a lot of people that are going to S4HANA and probably, as they move to the RISE offering with PCE, they might be doing a technical upgrade. And the technical upgrade typically means that they're only going live with Fiori apps that they have to use. There's very minimal scenarios. There's maybe 2 or 3 that you'll have to use Fiori that the T codes in SAP GUI have been deprecated. So typically we create a list after S4HANA has been live, and we have a phase 2 to go through and implement all the Fiori apps. So we create a list of all the applicable apps to your organization, test all these apps. Some of the apps are going to need notes to be implemented to fix the standard functionality, and we want to make sure that that standard app functionality isn't impacted by any customizations that you've done in your system. For ones that are impacted, you can extend some of these apps to accommodate these customizations. Some Fiori apps cannot be extended, so we'll want to get a list of those. Then we'll create a backlog of all the apps that need to be extended, and you can do any of the customizations that need to occur. You could then also create custom Fiori tiles for your custom transactions. That way, people aren't going from one user interface into the other for the activities that they're doing, and also creating custom tile groups and catalog groups for only the apps that are applicable to your organization. Next slide, please. Also, the embedded search within Fiori is very powerful. We want to make sure that that is implemented, and that'll support all the standard objects that you have, but you can also go a step above and define and configure the search model for any of your custom tables to make sure that those are all included as part of the embedded search functionality. Next, the approvals within the My Inbox app is very powerful, and moving to that and enabling the S4HANA flexible workflows is something we see a lot of customers doing. Next, MJ touched on the Enable Now functionality that comes as part of the RISE offering, and we want to make sure that we enable that in your Fiori Launchpad to give those users access to the help that they need within the Fiori Launchpad, within the standard SAP apps, as well as any custom apps that you've done and anything of that nature that helps them embrace this new user interface. And so that is kind of Fiori in a nutshell that for implementing Fiori, and then working with your organizational change management team to get that implemented across your organization. Next slide, please. Next, with S4HANA going to S4HANA, a big thing is analytics. Before S4HANA, you had your ECC system, and you were probably doing some minimal reporting directly in ECC using Report Painter or something like that. But the majority of reporting, you extracting data over to, say, BW or another data warehouse and using a front-end tool like Bex or Business Objects or even SAC in some scenarios, but ultimately doing the majority of reporting out of BW. Next slide. Now, after S4HANA, we could do a lot of our operational reporting because we're running on HANA directly in S4HANA. So you have a lot of pre-built analytical Fiori apps that allow you to do a lot of this reporting using standard CDS views. Now, we can also create custom CDS views and create custom Fiori apps for these reporting scenarios and use Fiori as a front-end tool, but also using a front-end tool such as SAP Analytics Cloud, leveraging those CPA credits and reporting, doing operational reporting directly out of S4HANA. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't still a need for a data warehouse. You'll still have some reporting going out of, say, BW for HANA or a database or a data warehouse of your preference. But given that unified table structure that you have with the ACDOC A table from a finance perspective, MatDoc table for the logistics side, a lot of this reporting and performance that you get out of HANA allows you to do that directly in S4HANA. Next slide, please. Other recommendations to mention, MRP for anybody that's doing MRP today. Standard MRP still works, but after the move to S4HANA, it's a minimal effort to configure MRP live. There's going to be increased performance because that product is optimized for HANA, but that's some low-hanging fruit that you can do to get some good good performance boost from MRP, and then exploring new functionality like demand-driven MRP or predictive MRP. Also the new advanced ATP within S4HANA, and also making sure that you're enabling your HANA optimized T codes. Your old T codes from ECC will still work. So the example here we have is FBL1, you have FBL1H. So there's a lot of HANA optimized T codes that you'll want to get your users using to make sure they're leveraging the performance of HANA now that they're on S4HANA. Next. All right. So now
Okay.
we're open it up for any Q&A.
Yeah, I think Will mentioned that a few people had some questions. Will, do you want to run through those?
Yeah, that's correct. So the first question is, what are the differences between PCE and on-prem? And what are the reasons to be on-prem?
So I think with what's come out with PCE, the reason to stay on-prem is if you want that perpetual license that you purchase. If you think that you may not want to take an upgrade or be forced into an upgrade every 5 years. But otherwise, you know, it is very, very similar. And of course, if you want to have direct control over your cloud provider, as opposed to going through SAP, well, then that would suggest maybe going with on-premise hosted. Gabe, what would you add to that?
Yeah, and I think you know, obviously it depends on where you're at in your hardware life cycle, as well as if you're on premise today, and you know, understanding that you're going to be giving up some of the flexibility that you have with, you know, having your own team and now having to operate around SLAs for you know, tickets and stuff that you want done.
Great point. Will?
All right, great. Looks like we have 2 more questions. The second of which is RISE only for S4HANA ERP, or can ECC be migrated to RISE as well?
So that's SAP, I think, does this as an approval. For certain customers, they've said that they will potentially approve moving customers over that are ECC migrating over to RISE with you know, an eventual plan to upgrade to S4HANA. But they've said that you know, ultimately you need to migrate to S4HANA, but there are select scenarios where they may approve moving you to ECC. MJ, anything to add on that?
No, that's spot on. It would absolutely have to be a one-off special situation, but I know they're doing it.
Yep.
All right, great. And this looks like the final question, unless anybody else wants to add one. And that is, from a technical perspective, is the concept RISE similar to operating S4HANA on SAP Private Cloud using SAP Cloud Platform component like CPI for integration and SAC for analytics?
So, so I think the question is, you know, is it similar to HEC? So private cloud. So PCE is yes, similar to HEC, except now you have the ability to have a subscription-based licensing model, whereas with HEC you still had an on-premise license, and but SAP managed your hosting and things of that nature. Otherwise, but with HEC you still may have had different hosting providers. Now you're on hyperscalers, which I think some of HEC had moved to. But from a CPI integration perspective, yes, you can use the integrations, the CPI Cloud Platform Integration Services or SAC for analytics in your RISE offering.
Great, and we got another question during that answer from Gabe. And this question is, can you describe in more detail the managed services that come with RISE by SAP when running PCE in a hyperscaler?
So SAP is going to become your hosting provider, essentially. They're going to be doing your basis activities. They're going to own the OS database level. There's a whole document that's publicly available that we could send out that describes all the roles and responsibilities and a whole RACI matrix around what's covered and what's not covered, what SAP is going to do, and that the customer cannot do. So yes, you're going to be limited by SAP is now your hosting provider and going to do a lot of, the majority of your basis activities from a managed services perspective, and you're going to have SLAs around tickets and incidents and things of that nature. MJ, anything to add?
No, I think, I think I was going to maybe just add a little bit that as an application management provide, so yes, SAP does your hosting, but they also are going to do some application management. And that really is, you've got to get into the details. It's a long document. A lot of it is, any kind of emergent stuff, and some of the regular maintenance SAP is going to do, but things that are kind of tailored to your situation, such as applying notes, or doing transports, that sort of thing. Applying notes might be done by SAP, but doing transports, you'll have to do a ticket for that, and that may be something that you can do on your own. I don't recall specifically, but I think the more it's a standardized piece, the more it'll be done by SAP, the more it's something tailored to your specific situation, it would be you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That does it for all the questions that were entered into the Q&A. And I believe that does it for our webinar. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And Gabe or Michael, do you have any final thoughts?
No, thanks everybody for joining. Please do get to us at bnimble.com or reach out to Gabe or myself directly. If you have any questions, we'd love to answer any questions that you may have about this.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.